something is changing in the way the world sees Jungkook this year, 2025. If in the past people saw him as one of the members of BTS, now the stage itself has become a giant entity. His world tour was not just a concert, but a global event. On TikTok, Twitter, and even LinkedIn, yes, even professional platforms, the discussion of how Jungkook is changing the standard of world touring is a rising topic. What makes it so great? The answer may lie in the way Jungkook brings music, fashion, and storytelling together into one whole experience. In every tour, there is something that feels cinematic. Her design sets are not just lights or LED visuals, but a reflection of the world she builds through her music. Dark but elegant, intense but restrained. Fans called it emotional choreography, a term that has now gone viral on Twitter because it describes how strong the non-verbal communication in each song is. But behind all that, the big improvement of the 2025 World Tour is not just about appearance. There are strategic details that show that Jungkook and his team are playing a bigger game than just World Tour. They're shaping the narrative economy. How one concert moment can turn into thousands of pieces of viral content, hundreds of millions of engagements, and dozens of sponsorship contracts that emerge from just one iconic scene on stage. One of them? The reverse blackout scene where the entire stage is turned off except for one spotlight into Jungkook's face, a symbolization of the dark taking center stage. Fans translate that in different ways. Some say it's a sign of personal reflection. Others believe it's Calvin Klein's visual strategy, a brand that has long been part of Jungkook's visual identity. But the effect? Incredible. On TikTok, the clip broke 300 million views in just a week. Calvin Klein's brand engagement jumped 48% in Asian markets and 31% in North America after the Seoul concert. Jungkook not only sells tickets, but also sells moments, and every moment is processed into a social asset that can be capitalized by the global industry. And this is where public opinion is divided in two. Some praised him as a true visionary, while others began to question, is Jungkook still purely an artist, or already a symbol of an industry that is too sophisticated to exploit his charisma? The debate itself strengthened Jungkook's position in the digital space. Whenever people debate its authenticity, the name Jungkook is trending again. In the attention economy, small, precision, controlled controversies are the most effective promotional tool. Jungkook seems to understand that. It is not necessary to argue. It is not necessary to explain. It just needs to show up and the world will talk. This 2025 World Tour is the culmination of that understanding. A stage that not only performs music, but manipulates public perception in a clever way. And most interestingly, he did it without losing his personal side. In between concerts, there are moments when he just sits, silently, looking at the audience. No words, just a look. But thousands of people were crying. That's where the power of narrative lives, not because of words, but because of experiences that feel genuine. On social media, the moment became iconic, not because of the stage effect, but because of the collective emotion that felt real. And now, every step, every lighting cue, every facial expression of Jungkook on this tour is the subject of analysis, discussion, even fan theories that have developed into social media opinions. It's as if the world is co-writing the story of this tour with Jungkook. And perhaps that's the biggest improvement of all. This tour no longer belongs to Jungkook alone, but to the world that keeps talking about it. Once Jungkook's 2025 World Tour was announced, many just thought it would be a grand concert by international standards as usual. But as it turned out, Behind the glitter of the stage, a much more complex system is hidden, a kind of visual marketing ecosystem packaged in the form of entertainment. Every element on this tour, from the lighting, choreography, stage cameras, to the colors of the costumes, is composed with incredible precision. The goal is not only to amaze the live audience, but also to lure the digital world into play. Because in the current era, concerts don't stop at stadiums. Concerts actually only really start when pieces of the video circulate on social media. And Jungkook knows that. Even as if he had predicted every viral moment long before the concert began. For example, the blue and white lighting effect in the song 7 is now known as the blue frame moment. As Jungkook lowered his head in the center of the stage and lights formed his silhouette amid the fog, the audience simultaneously raised mobile phones. Within 24 hours, the frame appeared in more than 120 million TikTok uploads with the hashtag number #BlueFrameJK. That's not a coincidence. The colors blue and white were chosen because they psychologically create an emotional calm yet longing effect, a blend that seduces social media algorithms, making viewers stop scrolling and re-watch. Calvin Klein, which became the main visual sponsor, co-attached its color identity to the moment without having to appear blatantly on the screen. They know every viral frame will be free advertising. But what makes this tour different is not just the visuals, but how Jungkook processes the visuals into a narrative language. He treats each stage as a chapter of a film. The transitions are smooth, like a cinematic montage. There are scenes that take the viewer from darkness to light, from the crowd to silence, as if the inner journey of a person who finds his balance. This is what makes the audience feel not just watching the concert, but coming to life in the story. This narrative, which then shook the opinion of social media, on X, Twitter, many write long threads analyzing each scene. Some have called it the most cinematic concert in K-pop history. Some argue that this is Jungkook's way of conveying an inexplicable side of himself through interviews. He chose visual over words. But the most ingenious and controversial is the strategy behind the scenes. Calvin Klein and Jungkook's team appear to have deliberately taken advantage of the delay footage release, where professional videos of the tour are not immediately officially released. The goal? Give fans room to create content first. Each fan-made video then goes viral, creating an organic atmosphere that is far more authentic than formal promotion. Only after the hype reached its peak, the official version was released. And the result? The highest visual concert streaming record in history. Some industry observers call this strategy a new form of participatory marketing, no longer selling concerts but selling the feeling of being part of them. Fans feel like they are creating history. They are no longer consumers, but contributors. And in the midst of all this, Jungkook remains a quiet center of gravity. He never looked too much, never asked for attention, but precisely because of that, he gets everything. The man who doesn't speak, but the world listens. From lighting analysis, to facial expressions, to the meaning behind his breathing, everything turned into multi-layered social media opinions. And this is where the genius of this tour reached its peak. It created the multiverse of meaning. Everyone has their own interpretation. One concert, 1,000 stories. And all those stories go back to the one name that is now redefining the meaning of global superstar Jungkook. Have you ever wondered what it would be like if someone came back on stage, but not just to perform, but to change the whole standard of the global music industry? Well, that's what Jungkook did. His world tour in 2025 is not just a comeback, it's like a new chapter in modern concert history. A lot of people say Jungkook's tour upgrade is just about bigger stages, more cities, crazier lighting. But if you look closely, it's not just an upgrade at the visual level, it's a total transformation. Because this time, all the details were born from his own mind. Not the idea of the company, not the result of marketing, but the result of the reflection of an artist who had disappeared and returned with a new awareness of who he is in this world. People forget that Jungkook is not just a K-pop idol. He has become a representation of the so-called New World artist, one who does not abide by the rules of the industry, but instead creates new rules through artistic honesty. And this huge increase is proof that he doesn't want to entertain anymore. He wants to bring experience. Imagine, the stage is not just a platform, but it turns into a living space where light, shadow, and emotion are arranged like a living movie that moves in the rhythm of its music. All movements, all colors, all transitions have meaning. You're not just watching a concert, you're being invited into his mind. And the coolest thing about all this, he refused to commercialize. Many big brands wanted to get into the tour, from fashion products to drinks to tech companies, but he refused because he didn't want to lose his soul. He said, "If the audience comes to see me, I want them to really feel close, not watching ads." Do you know how rare it is for such a phrase to come out from an artist on a global level like him? And that's why the massive increase in Jungkook tours is so ubiquitous. Not only in the music media, but also among creators, filmmakers, and even academics. They said, what Jungkook is doing is not just a concert. It's a modern form of performance art that combines technology, music, and emotion in one space. On Twitter, one comment went viral. Jungkook doesn't just perform on stage. He performs in the soul of his audience. And it's true, because if you just watch the trailer, you can see his eyes the same look as in the early days of BTS, but this time, deeper, more mature. There was something he understood about time, loss, and hope. He was once silent, not because he stopped, but because he was preparing for something that the world was not ready to see. This 2025 tour is like a kind of statement. I'm back, but I'm not the same person anymore. And honestly, it's bigger than just music. It's a reflection of life, of how a person grows through silence, then emerges again in a shaking way. If you've ever felt stuck or lost your way, this tour can be a very relevant symbol. Because from Jungkook, we learn one thing. Improvement is not about the size of the stage, but about the courage to be a new version of yourself, even if it means leaving the comfort zone you once loved. That's why, every time I see a stage clip, I don't just see a big artist. I see a man who has conquered himself. And maybe that's the real meaning of the big upgrade he was referring to. And this is where the interesting things start to show. Jungkook's 2025 World Tour not only made fans excited, it also made the global music industry restless. Because for the first time, an Asian artist is not just joining the global flow, but actually changing the global standard itself. You know how the world concert system usually works? There are agencies, there are sponsors, there are big promoters who manage everything from the back. Artists live, perform, and are on schedule, all calculated for efficiency, profit, and exposure. But Jungkook came and said, "No, I don't want my concert to be a template." And from there, everything changed. He created a stage that was not only spectacular, but intimate. He gave the audience a sense that is so rare in modern concerts, an emotional closeness that feels real. While the major labels out there are busy thinking about how to make the concert bigger, Jungkook instead focuses on making his audience feel closer. And the result? Everybody's talking about it. Fans feel seen, heard, and addressed, not through words, but through the energy that comes directly from the stage. But it's not just the industry that's panicking, but rather the way he rejects the formula of a successful concert that has been considered absolute. Usually, the world's big concerts are always measured through sold-out tickets, best-selling merchandise, or sponsors piled up. But here, Jungkook points out one more important thing: human relevance. He made everyone aware. Sometimes, the biggest concerts are not the most expensive, but the most honest. And it shook many parties. Several US labels called for an emergency meeting to discuss the Jungkook effect phenomenon, how their artists can compete with touring concepts that have such emotional depth. There's even an analyst at Billboard Business Report who says, what Jungkook is doing through his 2025 tour is a cultural revolution in the format of live entertainment, because it not only changes the expectations of the audience, but also challenges the entire production system that has long been stagnant. Imagine, now European and American promoters have to rethink the concept of their artist concerts. Many said, we have to make a concert that has meaning like Jungkook. And the funny thing is, they just realized, it turns out that the audience needs not only a big stage, but also a big feeling. You know why this is dangerous for a major label? Because if one Asian artist can lead the direction of the global market without bowing to the old format, that means the system has leaked. Power is no longer in the hands of labels, but in the hands of artists and their communities. And Jungkook is the clearest example of that. If in the past, big concerts were synonymous with how many sponsors came in, now the public asks, how sincere is the artist on stage? And it all changed because of one person who used to be known only as Maknae BTS, but now has become a new benchmark for the entire world entertainment industry. Funnily enough, many American media outlets are now beginning to refer to this tour as the Human Experience Tour, because Jungkook's concert is no longer a musical event, but a collective emotional experience. Fans cried, laughed, reflected, and many even said they felt more alive after watching the concert. And things like this can't be bought with money. You know the most ironic? When the giant companies were busy fighting over big names, Jungkook won because he was himself. He's not following the train, he's building a new train. And that made the world aware. All this time, they were too focused on selling the grand concert, but forgot the same meaning.